Yay, we're live. Always amazes me when that works.
Right.
Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours with Nora and Sto. This is a regular YouTube series that Sto and I do where we offer practical advice for independent musicians, entrepreneurs, creatives, artists, really trying to break down some of the nitty gritty of what you might need to succeed as an independent. I'm Nora. This is Sto.
Yeah. I'm over here. What's up, everybody? Episode 21. My hair is not working with me today, so bear with me. But I'm excited to. It took us a minute, but we're finally talking about planning the new year. I think we technically had this episode planned for December or something like that, but I actually kind of want to get into that a bit later on and hopefully kind of tie it all in. So, but we're happy you all are here, and let's get going.
You know, I think this is a good starting point because we've put this episode off so many times. And I know for me, part of the reason behind, I mean, obviously it's like more fun to talk about basketball and things like that. But part of the reason why I've had such a hard time with this episode is that it's hard for me to think about planning this year in particular. Like even for I sat down to do my goals and it's so hard to think big. It's really hard to think about what the next year is like, let alone what the next 6 months is like, let alone the next year. And so, you know, I think it's an important conversation because we'll address some of those things, but I'm wondering, so if you've been feeling the same way.
Yeah, I've been feeling exactly the same way. There are things that I guess in my head, like I definitely know I want to do. And even just thinking of what I usually do every year, like even that, thinking about that, it's all different in 2021, I feel like. So, it's mad different, but I think once we tackle kind of the bigger, like, I don't know, monster of getting organized and planning things out, I do think it gets less and less intimidating.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the starting points for me is always like, what is it that I want? And you can't plan anything without knowing what you're planning for, right? Like, what's the outcome? What's the goal? What's the destination? Do you have a process, though, that works for you when you're kind of figuring out what the goal should be and what that looks like?
I mean, for me, and I can't even pretend I've done this yet. I'm still kind of working through it myself. Excuse me, but part of it is just writing down my big, like, what by the end of the year, what do I absolutely want to get accomplished? Like in the biggest form, I guess, and then sometimes like even with smaller goals as well, as I think about it. It's really just writing it down. And I think I don't know why it helps. I think it's just one of those deals where I used to just walk around just like, okay, like, yeah, I'll remember everything I got to do and stuff like that. But as more and more things pile on, I think it just gets more and more overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And then things just start slipping through the cracks. And then, next thing you know, you're behind. So I think writing it down and then kind of breaking it down a bit more into what steps you would take to get there. I'm not the best at that. I usually try to do like 3 steps and then kind of bullshit my way through the other half steps. But, genuinely writing down what your plan is, I think is the best way to go about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is if you're not excited about the goals that you're setting for yourself, then you're not going to be excited to create that plan. You're not going to be excited to do the plan. And then 2 years have gone by and you still don't have a website. I'm pointing at myself because I think we oftentimes confuse things that we need to do, right? Tasks like to-do lists with goals, right? And so this, I think, is part of a good place to differentiate a little bit is your goals should be things that excite you. Your goals should be things that are like bucket lists. And your goals should really be one thing I can say is sometimes you think you want things, but that's not actually what you want. That's what you think you should want. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the reason why, to your point, Sto, why writing helps. because writing
Right.
helps you really like make sure, is this coming from me or is this coming from outside? And so just creating some time for quiet to see what comes up, that inspiration will come. So like meditating or journaling or just like sitting quietly and doodling a little bit, things like that that will help your brain empty out. And I know it sounds kind of like hippy dippy, but trust me, all this works. It empties out some of the quiet, it like pushes out some of the extra stuff that you are, that's like in the space, but not really things that you want, and allows what you really, really want to come up. And then from there, you can start to fine tune it and edit the goal so that you have what they call like a SMART goal.
Mhm.
And I would say the most important, and you can Google that, like we don't need to get into the nitty gritty of that, but the most important part of that is to make sure that your goal is specific. Because once you have a specific goal, it becomes so much easier to create an action plan, right? So it's the difference between saying, I want to travel. Okay, great. When? Where? For how long? Right? Like it leaves so many questions that you can't like start acting on it. But if you can get specific, I want to travel to Greece in May. Well, now you've created some parameters, and so it's easy to look for a ticket, buy your tickets, Airbnb, all of that. And I'm not condoning traveling right now. Everyone stay home. We're in a pandemic, but in another lifetime, like that would be my goal. So really thinking about like getting quiet and then getting really, really specific about what that goal is so that it can answer the question of what's going to change between now and the time that I do this, right? So it's not things like make a website, figure out my social media strategy. Like those are things you need to do. But when we're talking about planning for the year, really think about what are those like milestones or benchmarks that are going to make things you want to get on the internet and brag to your friends about, right? That are going to make a big significant decision in your life, or big significant change in your life.
Right. No, absolutely.
Shout out to everyone who's in the room, by the way. If y'all have questions, drop it in the chat. If you want to introduce yourselves, please feel free to do so. If you want to support me and Sto, the Venmo and the Cash App are also in there. We do this for the love. And so any little bit you give helps us kind of figure out our back end of things. But definitely if you have any questions, drop those in now, or if you're watching this later. And because we forget, I'll tell you now, subscribe wherever that button is. But yeah, Sto, anything else for you on the planning tip?
The only other thing I would really say is just it's okay to not have everything together at this exact moment. And I'll get into this a bit later as well. Like I feel like, and especially now, I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have everything figured out step by step, like 100%, or at least when we get down to starting to break it down. I feel like if we don't have a perfect route to a goal or whatever, I feel like sometimes that can discourage us or intimidate us. I know that's what happens to me sometimes. So it's okay if you don't have everything figured out at this exact second. But just getting started to get organized and plan things out, I think eases the pressure and then allows you to begin to execute towards those other steps. And then, you can keep planning from there.
Yeah, I think you bring up two really good points. Oftentimes we think, okay, we set the goal and that's it, and that's the goal forever. Right. But giving yourself permission to like reevaluate and revisit and rethink, like, is this still something I want to do? Does this still align with like my vision for myself? And so the goal really is like a bench line, but it's also there to kind of guide you to this like ultimate end result that you want to achieve for yourself. And that might change over time. I recently, Facebook gave me like my memories from 10 years ago, and it was some goals I had set for myself. And maybe I think it was like 10 goals. Some of them like were totally irrelevant. I was like, I wanted that. That doesn't mean anything to me now. Some of them are, are things that I achieved, and that's great and amazing. But to just give yourself permission to change your mind if you need to. The other thing, and I think this is something you and I talk about a lot, is it doesn't have to be perfect right away. And we oftentimes will not do something because we don't have everything in place or because it's not absolutely perfect. And part of the goal setting process is as you start, it gives you more information so that you can do that reevaluation, right? It gives you more information so you can figure out the next step. And so in an ideal world, we have all 10, 12, 14 steps. But if you don't have that and all you have are the first one or two, just get started. Just get started and allow yourself to trust in yourself enough that you'll be able to figure it out. Sometimes you don't know what you need to do next until you've taken that first step. You can't see it until you're like in it. And so take me and Sto as an example of it doesn't have, I mean, clearly, like, this is imperfect. It doesn't have to be perfect for you to get started on the goal, because oftentimes that's the thing that holds us back.
Exactly. Did we say we had questions or no?
We have like basic outlines. Let me see. I'm like going back and forth between screen. I mean, the second thing to kind of talk about is what is, like, how do you set yourself up for success? Right? Like, what are there tools? Are there practices? Like, what can we do? Or what can people do to set themselves up for success, to make it possible to then do the action plan, to follow through on the items that they've decided for themselves?
Right. And I mean, there's a lot, I feel like, that goes into it. And some of it can be kind of, I don't know, it can vary. And like we said with the previous segment, like, how you approach your goals and whatnot can change and will evolve as you start to work towards them. So when I say things like, okay, now that you have everything, you have your big goals planned out, and you have maybe a small path or a few steps on how to get there, then you can start kind of developing a timeline. But that said, I don't, I really think pressure is something that comes up a lot when it comes to goals, and especially when, I don't know, we live in this social media age where I feel like we look around and sometimes we see some peers way ahead of us and stuff like that. So I think when it comes to putting together a timeline, like I don't want you all being like, all right, I want to be at this exact point by the end of the year. And if I'm not there, like I'm a failure, I'm behind, and like there's no reason to even I want you all to give yourself room, first off, to just grow and learn through the process of what you're doing, but also to make mistakes throughout the process. Listen, at 30 years old, I thought I'd be somewhere completely different, and from where like my goals were, just like we talked about before. Like I thought I'd be, writing for insert publication here, and making all this money and stuff like that, and still, rapping on the side and whatnot. My life is completely different. But in that same breath, right? Like, I didn't think I'd have a book out until 40, 45 years old. So, when you're right, exactly. So when you're scheduling things out, don't be so strict in your timeline, and don't be so, or putting so much pressure to have things go a certain way, I guess is the best way to put it. Because I think we kind of romanticize, okay, if I want to do this, this is exactly how it has to get done. And this is exactly the amount of time that it has to get done in. And if it doesn't, well, now I'm off schedule, or now I'm behind, or, again, I'm seeing other people around me and they're getting to a certain place. How come I'm not getting there? I just want to give yourself permission to slow down and genuinely live your journey, because that's what it is. You don't have to compare yourself to others. You don't have to get to a certain place at a certain time. Like, it's okay to take your time. It's okay to actually execute and learn. And like I said, you're going to make mistakes, but those mistakes do genuinely lead to lessons that will help you accomplish that goal. I genuinely mean that.
I think it's really important to differentiate between a schedule and then like a activity plan, right? So you have this goal, and the next step is to think about, well, what are the things I need to do to make that thing happen, right? And you write down like all the little details so that you have like a checklist and you can work your way through the checklist. That's helpful, right? And if you want to put kind of timestamps around that, this will take me 3 months, this will take me 2 weeks, I give myself by the end of June or by my birthday or whatever, that helps, because goals without kind of time parameters then end up in this amoeba space, and maybe they get done, maybe they don't. And if they don't, that's not a failure in any way. It's really an opportunity to look at why not, right? Why isn't this the goal? Like, why didn't this happen in the time? And is it because I'm too busy? Is it because I'm just not that invested? Is it because I feel like anxious about it and so I keep procrastinating? Is it because I need help and I need to delegate? It'll give you information so that then you can make those adjustments that we were talking about. The schedule part, like, I got to do this by I'm 30, I'm too old for this. That's all nonsense. Like, that's all literally social construct. And like, let that shit go, because it doesn't serve you. It doesn't really mean anything. And there's no reason why you can't do the things you want to do on your own time. I think the other piece is what you mentioned about like making mistakes. And so it's really interesting, right? Because I think in the creative industries, we don't value mistakes enough. There's really this expectation that everything has to be perfect from the beginning and you put out something polished. And I was reading a book about like Silicon Valley and tech, and they freaking like love mistakes. And some of like our favorite apps started by people who failed at their first couple apps. But then like they failed, right? So here I am, I'm thinking everything has to be perfect and I'm never going to get another opportunity if I mess up, which, let's be real, right? As people of color, as women, there's that extra burden on us to be perfect. Meanwhile, these dudes in like the tech world are blowing millions of dollars, launching an app, it fails, and then they go back and get more money to do it all over again. And they look at failure as, well, that was necessary for me to get to this place. That was necessary for me to grow. Here are the lessons learned or the relationships I built. And so I say that because I think sometimes when we're planning and we're imagining and we're dreaming, this fear of failing holds us back. It makes us stay small when we really could be like big and take up all this space. And so obviously, like, me saying this isn't going to change anyone's relationship to failure, but I do invite folks to kind of rethink what failure can mean for you and look at it as an opportunity. How do we approach failure with some curiosity rather than self-judgment, right? Because the answer really lies in those moments of what didn't work, what did work, what can I do better, who supported me, who couldn't I count on? Like, that is a shit ton of information. And when we talk about then setting yourself up for success, you have, rather than like guessing and kind of shooting in the dark and making all these assumptions, you have all this information now that you can incorporate into your plan. I just want to welcome the new folks who are here. If y'all have any questions, drop those in the chat. Make sure you subscribe. And if you want to show Sto and me some love, the CashApp and Venmo are in there as well. Anything else? Oh, here's the other thing I would say about setting yourself up for success is the better you know yourself, the more you can create kind of systems and structures that push you to do good. So like, I know that if I have someone, like, I get my best work done when I'm co-working with someone, even if it's on Zoom and we just say, hey, what are you working on? This is what I'm working on. And we go to work. That's productive for me. So I build that into my day so that I have time to work on the action items towards my goal, right? Or I tell people, I have like a supportive group of people that we like collaborate, share resources, and I check in with them when I need someone to hold me accountable for something. So thinking about how can you create these systems, whether it's like a support system or whether it's having your to-do list someplace where you see it so you're reminded of it every day, reminders in your phone, building in these little like tools that will keep you on track for where you want to go or what you want to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The only thing I wanted to mention is just on your previous point is like, listen, I'm not involved in artist development really if I did not make mistakes in my own artistic career growing up. And like a lot of people don't know that I've been an artist for 14 years now. And it took a lot of trial and error, a lot of hopping on stages and failing, a lot of people saying no, a lot of people saying I wasn't good enough, all this stuff. Whether people far away that were like judges that I didn't know, or people close to me that were friends and stuff like that. So I remember being like, okay, I need to learn. And I remember watching my friends also struggle that were also good. Mm-hmm. And had I not stepped back and taken all those mistakes and failures or whatever, and taken the time to actually study and learn all this stuff that I do now, I wouldn't, one, have found a career in this and all of the stuff that I'm doing now, like literally everything. All of this artist development stuff would not be happening on my end because of those, or assuming that I took those mistakes and was just like, all right, well, I guess that's it. I'm just going to do something completely different. But so I only say that to say, you know, failure, I don't even know what other word to use to substitute that for, because I don't like the word failure anymore. Like, I think that's super harsh, and I think that's I feel like when something goes wrong or something like that happens, we take it so personally, and I think it can kind of hurt us in how we approach our goals and stuff like that. So I only say that to say, you know, don't let your mistakes completely trip you up from what you believe your journey is. There's something that I said this last week. There is something that only you can do, that has to be done. And I think that as you learn from your mistakes and learn to then get organized and plan out your goals and stuff like that, you do start to see those results. And for me, as someone who hates getting organized, as someone who cannot stand whiteboards and putting together lists and spreadsheets and all this other stuff, it is what keeps me motivated and keeps me on track when things do go wrong. I think it's very easy to get lost in like a specific moment of something going wrong. But I think when you step back and you're like, okay, but wait a minute, I have a plan right here that says, okay, here's literally what we're going to do next. You know, and that's not to say to just, you know, I don't know, parade through your mistakes. There's nothing wrong with feeling through all of that. But I think when you have a plan and you're organized, it's easier to get back up and be like, okay.
You just tap right back in.
Exactly. We're not done yet. So I that was a really long rant to just say not to give up and to give yourself space to make mistakes, whether it's in your own journey or in getting organized. These notes are so disorganized over here, but they're notes. And that's more than what I was doing when I was just like, okay, I'll remember that. I'll remember that. Just give yourself a chance to get started and you'll see those improvements.
I tell my clients to have an administrative meeting with themselves every week. So every week you should look at what's on the agenda, what's coming up, what's the long-term goal, what's urgent, and it holds you accountable to yourself. You start to treat some of the like technical, like just the administrative, not necessarily the most fun stuff, but you create a time where you just do that and you focus specifically on your plan, because it's so easy to let that stuff just, I'll do it tomorrow, and it doesn't get done. So really, when you build it in and it becomes kind of second nature, it's just as important as looking for beats or finding customers or getting on social media. It becomes part of the routine of your business, and that routine helps with the success of the plan and strategy and those kinds of things. For me, I have a notebook that is like always with me. And I have a yearly calendar in there. I have a monthly calendar. Every day has to-do lists and tasks. There's like a big picture overview. And so I, every day, open this notebook and look for what's in there, and it helps me plan. For you, it might be on your phone. It might be spreadsheets on your computer. Give yourself time to go back and forth to find what works. It might be the whiteboard. It might be, you know, and whatever it does. And I think sometimes we talk about these things like they're so dry and technical, but look, if adding some stickers on there makes you happy and makes you more inclined to open the notebook, add some stickers, right?
Exactly.
If you want to create your own template on Canva and that's going to help you because you can add like cute like design elements, cool, do that, right? This is something that you are going to engage with every day for a long time. And so it should make you feel good. And so creating the conditions, like, yeah, make sure your goals are like specific and measurable and time sensitive and, all of that, relevant, all of those things, but also that you feel good about it. You want to look at it. You want to work towards it. And if you find yourself feeling some tension around that, then that's an opportunity to kind of explore and investigate it.
Exactly.
So what's your goal this year? Are you making any plans?
Honestly, I just want to get my album finished, and ready to go. I feel like I've always just been using the excuse of work, and obviously I have stuff written, but that's kind of my biggest thing. And kind of just to attempt to have a bit more positive of a mindset, which I feel like is absolutely impossible given the circumstances. But yeah, those are two of my big goals. What about you?
I knew that you were going to ask me that question when I asked you, but it's hard for me to have an answer. I think this year I'm really trying to find a little bit more balance and bring more, like, I don't think I have enough fun. I don't think I have enough joy in my life. Like, and I don't know. Listen, if anyone's watching this and you have tips for me, please DM me, please, like, because it's really, and you think it's second nature, but it's not for me. Like work and happiness, like not work. See where my mind goes? Like joy and happiness, these things take a lot of effort for me. So trying to like make it easy as possible for me to have fun and bring joy in my life. And then I would love to do more regular speaking. So I do quite a bit already, but I want to transition into making that kind of a more solid part of my like consulting and work. I'm sorry. Do you all hear that?
Oh yeah, I was like, what?
I don't know what that was. There's like sirens, cars are honking. I'm like, I don't know what's happening out there. But anyways, that's, yeah. So more joy, more happiness, and then more speaking gigs.
Absolutely. Heck yeah. And hopefully you guys, you all will leave your goals either in the comment section or in the chat on the side or in the comment section below. We'd love to hear what you all are striving for in 2021, just because it's another unique year. And I think last year, a lot of us started doing things differently. And I think this year, some of us are kind of, I guess, getting used to this new normal or whatever. But I do want to just encourage everyone to keep pushing on and to not give up. I know it's tough out here.
You know what it is? Sorry, so I'm going to cut you off.
Ahead.
It's, a friend reminded me of this. We never know what's going to happen in the world.
Right.
So even under like pre-COVID time, right? Under back in the day times, we set a goal and there was still so much uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Now the uncertainty is more present, but it doesn't mean that it didn't exist before. And so in some ways I say that to say like, there's always unknowns and you can either plan and at least be a little prepared for when the unknown comes, right? And set the intention for what you want, or you can kind of be haphazard about it and then for sure nothing's going to happen.
Right.
And so so I feel, and again, like I'm having a really hard time setting goals and planning for the future. So I get it, right? But also the idea that like we can predict the future and things are certain is really just an illusion.
Right.
And so if you remember that, then, and I'll say one more thing. Also, we accomplish so much on a day-to-day that we don't recognize. And so it's so easy to get sucked into the world's chaotic, things aren't going the way I want, this, that, and the other. And so be really intentional about, like, I have in my journal what I call a shine page. Some of you have heard me talk about this before. I write down all the good shit that happens. So when I do feel like things aren't going the way they need to go, I look back at the shine page and I'm like, wait, but you did this and you did this and this happened and this happened. And so sometimes your brain needs a fact check, right? When things become discouraging or you feel like you're not accomplishing or you're off track, you need something that says, well, look at all this good shit you did. Look at all these great things you accomplished. And so celebrate those wins. And, as Sto said, like, let us know what your goals are. Let us know how we can help you. Let us know what you're proud of. Like, did you accomplish something last year or in the last month that like you're really proud of? Put that shit in the comments, because that's worth celebrating. And we want to celebrate you because, we've said this before, but Sto and I really do these because we want to see y'all succeed and see y'all be successful. And, we all like, it really is about if you win, we all win together. So celebrate yourselves. Help us celebrate you. Put that shit in the comments. Let us know. All that good stuff.
Absolutely.
Aww, I feel we just got like mushy gushy a little bit. I'm like, oh.
But yeah, we're coming up on about a half hour. We really appreciate you all for coming through. I have no idea what we have planned for next week, or 2 weeks, excuse me. But this is episode 21 of Office Hours. If you liked
Twitter.
and enjoyed,
2 weeks from now, we're talking about how to build relationships on Twitter, which is how Sto and I met. So it's going to be a really good episode.
Exactly. So yeah, if you liked what you heard and saw, go back and check the other 20 episodes. There's a lot of good information in there. We really kind of what started as an Instagram live thing has now blossomed into an entire channel, and we're just getting started. So we really appreciate all the support. Make sure you hit the like button, as that helps other people see our content that also want to improve, whether it's artist development or just improve in general. So yeah, leave a like. Make sure to subscribe. We'll be back soon. Hit the donation link down below if you feel ever so inclined. And yeah, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace.